Something just happened inside one of the biggest legacy newsrooms in the country. And it wasn't subtle. It wasn't accidental. And it sure wasn't about journalism. No, this one came down to pressure. Real political pressure. And the people who like to lecture you about independence and truth and protecting democracy just folded like a cheap lawn chair. Now, if you're wondering how far the media establishment is willing to go to protect its power and cut its losses, or how deep the collusion goes between corporate media and the political class, you're about to get a front row seat. But before we show you the clip, make sure you're subscribed to Explain America. Please like, comment, share. It helps us get common sense journalism to the American people. Now, here's what's going on. Jake Tapper, yes, CNN's Jake Tapper, just went on air, visibly shaken, to report that the executive producer of 60 Minutes, Bill Owens, has suddenly resigned. Not retired, not reassigned, resigned. And some people might suggest fired. And not because of ratings, but because of what Tapper himself called alarming political pressure. Let's be real. Tapper tried to spin it. He tried to downplay Trump's lawsuit against CBS and 60 Minutes. He claimed that editing of Kamala Harris's interview was no big deal, just editorial discretion. Well, we think it's manipulation. But here's what's not to spin. CBS is owned by Paramount Global, and Paramount wants a multi-billion-dollar merger. That deal needs the Trump administration's approval to go through. And suddenly, the very people accused of distorting a political interview now have a financial motive to appease Trump and keep the deal alive. Tapper tried to act like this was a shocking moral blow to journalism. He even delivered what might be the most melodramatic line of his career. Hope the money's worth it, Shari. Yeah, that's Shari Redstone, a majority owner of Paramount. And Tapper wants you to believe she sold out 60 Minutes for a payday. But here's the irony. For years, Tapper and others in the corporate press had no issue with media blackouts, biased editing, selective leaks, and activist framing, as long as it serves their side. Now, when they feel the pressure from the other direction, suddenly they remember what journalistic integrity is supposed to look like. Spare us. This story is not about one man or one show, as Tapper put it. It's about the slow collapse of a media empire that they thought was untouchable. Now they're not just losing Now they're not just losing credibility, they're losing control. All right, let's roll the moment Tapper finally cracks. Watch carefully, because this isn't confidence, this is panic.
Our politics lead. The executive producer of CBS News 60 Minutes, Bill Owens, resigned today. Now, normally that would probably not be news that we would bring you, except the circumstances rise to the level of, well, alarm. Owens said in a letter to his staff that, quote, over the past months, it has become clear that I would not be allowed to run the show as I have always run it, to make independent decisions based on what was right for 60 Minutes, right for the audience, unquote. And the context here is key, because President Trump has been suing CBS News and its parent company, Paramount Global, for $20 billion for what the president calls, quote, unlawful and illegal behavior, unquote, though his accusations, according to legal experts, do not withstand scrutiny. This is what happened. Last fall, 60 Minutes interviewed Vice President Harris. President Trump declined the show's offer to sit down with them for an interview. During the Harris interview, 60 Minutes correspondent Bill Whitaker asked the then sitting vice president why Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was not apparently listening to the Biden administration. Now, a preview of her answer ran in a preview clip on CBS's Face the Nation on Sunday morning.
The work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
The next day, however, 60 Minutes ran this answer when it ran the actual edited interview.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Now, CBS News explained the discrepancy, saying that they merely ran two different parts from the same longer answer, and under pressure they revealed their transcript, and that is indeed what they did, as frankly happens all the time, including with President Trump's taped interviews. For instance, just for instance, in June of 2024, this ran on Fox.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
Definitive, firm, yes, I would. But, as Semaphore noted at the time, the full, unedited version featured Trump sounding far less definitive.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world.
The president alleges that editing the 60 Minutes interview and running two different answers to the same question helped Vice President Harris and amounted to electoral fraud. In reality, this is just editorial discretion. Editors do it all the time with recorded interviews, including all the time with taped interviews and Donald Trump by Fox. All the time. And legal experts, left, right, and center, say that this lawsuit in a court would certainly fail spectacularly. But, Paramount Global, which owns CBS News, is currently trying to merge with Skydance Media. And in order to do so, they need the approval of the Trump administration, specifically the FCC. And under the FCC's brand new Trump-supporting commissioner, Brendan Carr, it has been suggested that Trump's news distortion allegations against 60 Minutes will be considered by the FCC before any merger is approved. Now, Sherry Redstone is the majority owner of Paramount, and she stands to make a fortune if this multi-billion-dollar deal, this merger, goes through. And it seems as if Sherry Redstone is likely to bend the knee to Trump and settle this allegedly frivolous lawsuit. Now, Bill Owens, until today the head of 60 Minutes, rightly believes that 60 Minutes has nothing to apologize for. And that's what's going on. That's the context. One 60 Minutes source tells me, quote, the lawsuit was baseless. He wouldn't apologize, meaning Bill. Bill Owens wouldn't bend. He fought for the broadcast and for independent journalism, and that cost him his job. It's shameful, unquote. A second 60 Minutes source tells me, quote, Bill has widespread support at 60. He's dedicated his life to CBS and the broadcast, and this was his last act of dedication to it. It's like a guy who has been battling for months against an attack, unable to defend the broadcast from inappropriate corporate influence. He pulls the pin from his last grenade. He sacrificed himself, hoping it might make our corporate overlords wake up and realize they risk destroying what makes 60 Minutes great. It seems clear now, in a quest to sell the company, Sherry Redstone and others will bow to presidential pressure. 60 Minutes is one of the crown jewels of American broadcast journalism, and they have no problem crushing it in their race to make a deal and make themselves richer, unquote. Sherry Redstone had no comment when we reached out. President Trump, of course, has been trying to kneecap anyone providing oversight over his administration. He literally started his administration by firing a whole bunch of inspectors general. He is currently ignoring judges and courts. He and his MAGA forces intimidate the legislative branch from uttering even a peep of criticism. They're going after law firms. They're going after universities. And this war against the Fourth Estate, journalists, is of this piece.